Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Dale, and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path, located in Forest City, North Carolina. Good news is the ring bases are finally back in stock, so I can teach you another fun ring project on using the shower part adjustable ring bases, which you can find on our Etsy site, which there's a link at the end of the video for our Etsy site. Now, for today's project, I am going to be teaching you a new ring, and you're going to need quite a few little products. You're going to need 3 different colors, 6 each, of a 4mm bicone. These are going to make up the body of our flower. You're going to need 1 6mm montee, and if you're not familiar with what that is, I'll be happy. I will show you what that is. You're going to need some size 11 seed beads, regular seed beads, not delicas. You're going to need 6 3mm round beads. Now these can be crystals, they can be pearls, they can be faceted glass beads, whatever you want them to be. You're going to need the shower part adjustable ring base, a size 10 or a size 12 beading needle, and about 2 yards of fire line. So get your materials together and let's get started. So for today's video, for my size 11 seed bead, I'm going to be using a silver lined rainbow topaz. My color A bicone is going to be Dorado. My color B bicone is a Preciosa crystal, and it's the golden flare. And my color C bicone is a smoked topaz. For my 3mm rounds, I'm going to be using 3mm Swarovski brown pearls. I'm using a 6mm light Colorado topaz montee, and now the montee has a cross hole on the back. Some people call it a rose montee, but this is just a little component that you need. And I'm going to be using my shower part adjustable ring base, and this is the ring that we're going to be making today. It's a lot of fun. It's my own design, so I hope that you guys enjoy this project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got a needle threaded on to 2 yards of fire line. And the first thing I'll do is I will take my needle and I'm going to thread on 1 seed bead, and I'm going to bring it down near the end of my thread, and I'm actually going to take the little tail and my working thread, and I'm going to tie that together so that when I tie, the knot will be around the seed bead. And I normally put about 3 really good knots on there, so that's what I end up with. Now I'm ready to start with my shower part base, so I'm going to take my needle, and from behind I'm going to come out of any circle here on the outside ring, which is this outer ring here. So I'm going to come up through one of the holes, and what I do, see that seed bead that we added, that stops the thread, and I'm just going to take the thread and hold it just like that with my fingers. Now I'm going to use my color A bicones first, and we're going to be adding 6. So I'm coming out of one hole. I've picked up 1 bicone. I'm going to skip 1 hole and go down through the next hole. So skip 1 and go down through 1. So that when you pull, your bicone will sit. Now it's not going to sit perfect. It's going to sit a little whoppy jawed, but that's okay. It will straighten up as we stitch along. I'm going to come up through the very next hole. I'm going to pick up a bicone, skip 1 hole, and go down through the next hole. And then I will come up through the next hole. And I'm going to go around the ring just simply picking up 1 bicone, skipping 1 hole, and coming down through the next hole on this outer ring. Don't worry too much about the way your beads sit at this point. Pick up one, skip a hole, go down through the next hole, come up through the next one, pick up one, skip one, go down through one, up through the next hole, and then finally for our sixth bead, we'll pick up one, skip one, and go down through that last hole there in the ring. And now what I'll do is I'm going to come up through the very first hole that I started with, and that'll be the one where this very first bead I added. So I'm going to come up through the hole, and then I'm going to come through the crystal. Now I'm going to be using my color B crystals and my color C crystals, and for this first one I'm going to pick up a B, a C, and a B, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back around through the same bead I'm coming out of to make a circle. So right now my thread is exiting this way, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through that same bead, coming that same way. Now when you pull, you'll want to push those beads to the center here, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to come up through this first bead that I added, and you'll want to keep your tension good and taut for this. So I'm coming out of a B, I'm going to pick up a C and a B, so a C and a B, and this is my next color A in the circle, so I'm just going to come back through the color A. I'm basically going to make a circle, so I'm going to come back through the color A, coming towards the beads that I just added. And it's going to look just like that. I'm going to come up through the B in the middle, through the C that I just added, down through the B, and then through the A, the next A here on the base. I'm going to pick up a B and a C, and I'll take my needle and I'm going to come down through the B right here that I just come through. I'm going to come down through it. I want to make a circle. I'm going to go through it, through the A I was originally coming out of to start this step, and then up through the B I just added. Alright, I'm going to pick up a C and a B, and I'm going to take the needle. I'm coming out of this B here. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come back through this A, this very next A, going back towards my beads that I've added. And then I'll come up through the B here in the center, through the C that I just added, down through the B, and then through the next A in the circle. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a B and a C. Again, I want to make my circle, so I'm going to pick up, I've got my, my B and my C, and I'm going to come down through this B here right before the A. I want to make that circle, finish it out. Okay, now I'm going to come through the A that I was coming out of to start this step. Up through the B that I just added. And now, when I get to here, I have a B to this side, an A down here, and a B here. So the only thing that's missing is my one C bead. So I'm coming out of a B here on this side. I'm picking up a C, and I'm going to come down through the B, which would be the very first B that I threaded on, or it will be the B right next to the one I'm coming out of. And I'm going to go down through that B, through the A, up through the B, and then that will complete my circle. Now at this point, it looks really woppy. It looks like you kind of just have a clump of stuff on top. That's no worries, we're going to fix that. So what we'll do at this point is I'm coming out of a B, and I'm going to come up through the very next C here in my circle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go around and go through all these top C's here in this circle. Just pulling them, not tight, but I don't want, because if you pull them too tight, it'll cause it to buckle. You just want to kind of go through pulling those C's together. Make them into a little family, I guess you could call them. So that now I've got my group of 6 beads here on the top. The only problem is we don't want to leave this big gaping hole here. So that's why I decided to add the montee. And it will cover up my big hole. So what I'm doing is I'm coming out to this side of a color C bead. I'm going to stick the needle through one of the holes in the back. And I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come to a diagonal. If I'm coming out here, I'm going to come to a diagonal. And I'm going to go through the bead opposite the one I'm coming out of. So I'm going to come and go through it this way, so that technically both my old string and then when I pull, the new string will be coming out the right sides here. Okay, so the montee's on there, but it's not stable yet. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come through the other hole in the montee, which is the hole right where we're exiting. Go through that hole. And then back through that same crystal I was coming out of when I started this step. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll reinforce it again. So I'm just going to go back through that same little series of beads again to reinforce. Go through the other hole of the montee. And then back through your crystal. Okay, now we have some more embellishment that we have to do around the base and up here on the montee, but I don't want to add it yet because I don't want to have to deal with all that while I'm trying to add on the loops here on the side. See, from the sample ring you can see the seed bead embellishments that we're going to do around the edge of what we just added, but I want to go ahead and add my loop so that way my thread doesn't get caught on anything up in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is stitch down to exit out of an A here on the bottom. So to stitch through your beads, you do not want your thread to show coming across. So you have to stitch through the beads to get there. And the first thing I'll do is pick up, let me move my seed beads here so you can see it a little better. I'm going to do 2 seed beads, 1 3mm, 12 to 14 seed beads, depending on how big you want your loops to be. My loops here have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So 12 loops around here. So if you want your loops to be bigger, just add more beads. But you can't really go smaller or it won't look right. So we're going to add 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got my 12 seed beads. And then I'm going to put on a 3mm and 2 seed beads. So I'm coming out this way out of my color A bicone, and I want to make a circle. So I'm just going to come back through that same A, coming through towards the thread here. And you want to remember to always pull the way that you're coming out of a bead. It'll make your work so much nicer. Okay, I'm going to come through the 2 seed beads and the 3mm that I just added. These would be the very first ones. I'm going to go ahead and pull that. The loops that I did for the ring are double loops. Each one has a double. And it just added more texture to the ring so it wouldn't just be so flimsy and floppy. So you come out and you're going to add 12 more beads. And we're going to go down through the opposite 3mm. So it's this one right over here. And pull good and tight so that you have your first double loop of beads here. Now I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, and instead of coming back through the same color A here, I'm going to come through the next A. Each flower will share a each flower loop will share a 3mm. So now I'll pick up 2 seed beads, 1 3mm, and 12 seed beads. And I'll take the needle and I'm going to come back through the same 3mm that I was coming out of a minute ago, and then through the 2 seed beads that I just added to come through this color A. Now I'll go through the A, and then through the 2 seed beads and the 3mm. So now I have to make the second loop, so I'm going to pick up 12, and I'll take the needle, and again I'm going to come back through this 3mm here in the middle, through the 2 seed beads that I added to come through this next bicone, through the 4mm color A, through 2 seed beads, and then through the 3mm. So you can see our little flower is starting to come together with its loops. So 12, 1 3mm, and 2 seed beads. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to come to the next color A on my circle, which is this one. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come back through that color A, going towards the 2 loops I've already made. Then I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads and come up through the 3mm here in the center now. And now you'll continue adding your little stems or your leaves here until you've got 5 of these done, and I'll show you how to do the 6th. So I've got 5 of my stems done now, and I'm ready to add this last one. So I'm coming out of the pearl, coming towards the center of the flower when I finish the last step, and I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads and come through this last color A on the base. Then I'll pick up 2 seed beads and come up through the very first 3mm that I added on in this circle. Alright, now I'm ready to pick up 12. And when I get those 12, I'm going to come over here to this other 3mm, and I'm going to come down through that 3mm. And then through the 2 seed beads that I added, through the 4mm here on the base, through the 2 seed beads, and then through the very first 3mm that I added. And now I've got to do one last loop of 12 to finish off the double loop. And I'll take the needle and I'm going to come right over to the opposite 3mm and add that last loop. Now, when you get done with this, essentially, if you don't want to go any further, you can be done with your flower ring. But I had all these seed beads out here on the edges and no seed beads kind of here on the inside, and I wanted to add just a little something different. So if you want to stop with what you've got, simply tie off your threads with some half-hitch knots and put it on the ring base. Otherwise, continue following my pattern. So I'll take the needle and I'm going to come through 2 seed beads and a color A on the base. Now, I'm going to add little X's across each of my little right angle weave circles here along the body. So I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads. I'm coming out of a color A, coming this direction here. So I'm going to come right to the color C directly above it, and I want my beads to lay at a diagonal across this little square. So I'm going to take the needle, I'm going to come through the color C right above it, and I'm going to go the same way. My thread's coming out this way, so I'm going to go that same way, go back through it, so that I have a little thing of seed beads that lay diagonally across. Now I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, I'm going to come down through the middle seed bead of the 3 that I just added. And then I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead and I'm going to come back down through the A that I started with. So that when you pull that, that makes a little X over your beads. Now I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads and I'm going to come right on through the next A in the circle. And so see, that covers up a gap and it helps me get over to the next A very easily. So again, 3 seed beads. I'm going to come to the C right above the A that I'm coming out of, and I'm going to go through it so that I will have a diagonal of seed beads over it. Pick up 1 seed bead and I'm going to go down through the middle seed bead of the 3 that I just added, and it'll help keep it tight if you'll put your finger over it and then pull the thread. It'll help it keep it nice and tight for you. And then pick up 1 seed bead and come back through that A you're coming out of to finish out the X shape. And then I'll pick up 2 seed beads and come right through the next A in the circle. And you want to repeat adding the X's over the beadwork around the rest of the center. Once you're finished with the center, this is what you'll have. When you do the very last X, be sure and pick up 2 seed beads and then go through that very first A that you started with, so that way it will finish out this bottom circle layer. Now, at this point, if you want to, again, you can stop, you can do a few half-hitch knots, and you can tie the thread. But again, I like embellishment, and I didn't think it was enough beads, so this is what it looks like without seed beads around the montee, and this is what it looks like with seed beads around the montee. So it'll give you an idea of what I'm fixing to do, and it will allow you to decide if you want to go this last step or not. So if you decide to do it, go ahead and stitch through your beads, and you want to exit out of the montee here at the top. So I go up through a B, through a C, and through another C to get to the hole in the montee. Now I'm going to go through the hole. I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads, and I'm coming out of the hole here, and I'm going to come right across to the next little hole, and I'm going to come down through that hole so that when I do, my seed beads will make a little loop like this. Then again, I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads. I'm coming out of one hole, and I'm going to come right around to the next hole, and I'm going to come through it so that I have 2 loops of seed beads, one on each side. Now I'll take the needle, and I'm going to go through the 4 seed beads that I'm coming out of, or the very first 4 seed beads that I added. So I'm going through those, and that straightens them up a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads, and I'm going to come over here to the next loop of 4, and I'm going to go through all 4 of those seed beads. Now if you can't go through them all at one time, just go through them a couple at a time. So that puts the top a little ways done. And then I'm going to pick up 4 more seed beads, and I'm going to come over here to my very first loop, and I'm going to go through that there to finish up the circle. Now, if that circle seems too tight, like it's wanting to go up over the montee, like this one kind of is, then I'll just back out of the 2 seed beads that I just went through, and I'll pick up an extra seed bead. So that would actually be 5 seed beads. And then I'll go through those 2 seed beads again. So now it's laying better around the circle. So I'm just going to take and go through all of the seed beads that form this top circle again. And I'm not pulling super tight or anything. I'm just pulling enough to get through the beads. And you can go through this circle as many times as you want to, just to kind of reinforce it. I like to go through it about 3 or 4 times, because this is the top of the ring, and this little part right here is going to take the blunt of a lot of the hits to the ring. So I just want it to be nice and secure around the top. Now, if you don't like how it's up, how you can raise it up on each side, then just take, and where you're coming out, come out of a seed bead and come right down through a bicone right below where you're coming out of. Now this will work good if you're using dark thread with dark beads or light thread with light beads, because that'll kind of tack it down for you and you won't have to worry about it. The biggest thing is if you use dark beads and then you use, say, a light colored thread like the crystal thread, then you're going to see this massive piece of thread there, and you don't want that. You've worked hard on the ring. You want it to look nice. So I'm going to tack it down on this side real quick, just so that I know it won't come apart. And now the top of my ring base is finished. So I'm going to come down through and tie the thread. And what I like to do is I will actually go ahead and stitch through my beads, and I will come out of the bottom of the shower part or the perforated disc. And then I'll take my working thread and the little tail that I had, and I'll tie those two together in a couple of really good knots. I normally put about 4 knots in there, and I do double knots. And then I trim the tails, but I don't trim them super close. I leave maybe about 1/8 of an inch or so. And now I'm going to press that seed bead down towards the center so it's away from the outside. And I'm going to get my ring base, and I'm ready to attach the ring base to it. So I'm going to lay it down on here. And this one fits in just perfect. So then I'll take my flat nose pliers. I will grab a hold and flatten out one prong, and then I'll come diagonally across, flatten out the second prong, and then the other prongs, it doesn't matter which one you go to, you just go ahead and flatten it out and then flatten the fourth one out. So that now your ring is complete, and you've got a nice adjustable base to it so that you don't have to worry about sizing it to a specific size. So there's your project for today. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find kits for this ring, and you can find the ring bases on our Etsy site, which is listed at the end of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you back next week for a new video.